There's an abundance of life all around us. We just have to go find it. The best food is grown in a healthy ecosystem, and a healthy ecosystem has lots of biodiversity and has super rich, healthy soil. Especially when it comes to vegetables, the best tasting, most nutritious vegetables are grown in really rich, healthy soil that has a lot of life. Healthy soil leads to healthy plants, healthy food, and ultimately, hopefully, healthy people. So this video, we're going to show you how we replenish the soil, feed it, how we get it ready for winter on our vegetable beds. And one thing I'd like to mention about healthy fruits and vegetables and really food production in general, I think we need to move away from focusing on fertilizing and feeding plants. It's really all, for us, our approach is it's all about feeding the soil. And the healthy soil will take care of producing healthy plants and then ultimately the healthiest food. And people ask us about fertilizer a lot, but to be honest, we rarely fertilize at all. We focus on feeding the soil, getting the ecosystem going, making sure the soil food web is doing really well, all the microbiology is well fed, and then that nourishes the plants that are in there. So when we're thinking about replenishing the soil, we're thinking about two things. We want to do it in the most sustainable way possible and the most economical way. So we look for organic material of a variety of sorts, something that's readily available locally. So in this case, we've got coffee grounds. This is from a local coffee shop. It's a 5-gallon bucket. We're going to put that on. Coffee shops tend to be super happy to give you coffee grounds for free, and they're a really good source of organic material, a little bit high in nitrogen. And then the other thing, of course, the one reason we like to do this in the fall is there's an abundance of leaves in our neighborhood. So these a neighbor gave us, and then we just ran them through a mulching lawnmower. We have a battery operated one, which is really cool, does a great job to get them mulched so they're in smaller pieces so they'll break down a little bit faster. So we're just going to put a layer of coffee grounds on and then a layer of leaves over the top of that, and then we're going to top it with compost. We make a bunch of our own compost, or we also get compost from the local green waste facility, which is another material that comes locally produced by our neighborhood, right? So that's all we're going to need to replenish the soil. And it's fantastic because all of these materials are materials that would otherwise end up in a landfill, right? The green waste, they're making compost out of material that the city produces, coffee grounds, and the leaves could end up in the landfill also. So it's really a sustainable way to use a locally available source, and they're super rich. And by doing this in the fall, the soil food web, the soil life, the worms, the microbiology, all the fungus and everything have time to break it down a little bit and incorporate it before the spring next year. So that's one reason we like to do it in the fall. And then it's also awesome because in the spring we start getting busy, we're starting seeds and everything, and we can just plant in these beds. They're pretty much ready. We don't do any other prep. So let's get to replenishing the soil. The coffee grounds and leaves, there's not really a reason that we're doing them in layers. That's just to make sure that we get enough or we get kind of the right amount. And you don't have to worry about it too much, how thick it is. I mean, you don't want the leaves to be super thick, but one layer is great. And then you can even mix them in a little bit if you want to. We really don't worry too much about that because we're going to top it with compost. And then there's going to be plenty of time for snow. And then, like I said, the soil life, the worms really do a lot of the incorporating. They love the coffee grounds and the brown leaves. So let's go ahead and put some compost on the top and we'll call it good. Looks like we're going to need a little more compost. This bed is done, prepped for the winter, should have plenty of nutrients and should have time to break down. And notice we didn't wet it down. We should be able to get some rain here pretty soon, so that will start the process. The leaves were pretty dry, but we should get plenty. Hopefully, we've been in a serious drought here in Utah, but hopefully we'll get rain in the rest of the fall, and then hopefully some snow over winter, which will also be a nice blanket. Notice with the compost, I did fill it all the way up. The leaves will break down and then things will sink down a little bit by spring, so it's no problem getting it nice and full. Other things that you could consider adding to bring in more nutrients, really like coffee grounds, like we said. Juice pulp might be available at a juicery, local juicery. We've got a really good friend that's given us lots of good pulp before. Other things would be worm castings. They're a really nutrient dense compost type thing that could be a little bit more rich in nitrogen if you do need some more nitrogen in your soil. Manures, as long as they're well aged, composted and then well aged, manure is a great source of soil life. Also cover crops, that's something that we're going to explore a lot more. You can grow your own green manure, right, with winter, fall cover crops, and even in the summer too. So there's lots of ways to get soil health without buying fertilizer. The big thing I kind of wanted to emphasize with the fertilizer is it's not that you maybe never want to fertilize. It's just that I don't think that people should think by default that I need to fertilize and feed the plants. Really, if you have a really healthy soil that's got a lot of nutrients in it already, the last thing you want to do is spend money on fertilizer and then have that end up in the water stream. I think more home gardeners are prone to over fertilizing than under fertilizing. Now, if your growth isn't good, you might have to consider some fertilizer. If you need a really nitrogen rich fertilizer for organic gardening, you can look at blood meal. But again, if we can do it with coffee grounds, juice pulp, worm castings, compost, all locally sourced and all for almost free, then we'd rather replenish our nutrients that way and then not have to worry about fertilizer at all. If you happen to be catching this video in the spring and you're like, oh, I didn't do this in the fall, that's totally fine. If you do want to add raw organic material such as coffee grounds or brown leaves, I would just try to get them deeper into your bed, into your soil. You might have to incorporate them in with a digging fork or a shovel, or if you are building new beds, you just top with more compost. But I think that about wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed the video and you're excited to grow tons of food next year. Thanks for watching Foodscaping Utah, and grow your own.